Riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. Here's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me as always, co-host extraordinaire, Jean-Claude to my Van Damme, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how you doing?
You know, I don't know, Garrett. It's strange, but I don't know if you felt this way all week, if you've had a vague, uneasy feeling that the podcast or you or possibly me or something is 21 to 23 years past its prime.
I have had this nagging feeling in the back of my skull. I was worried it was a tumor, so I'm glad to hear you share it as well. Why don't you tell the folks at home why something just seems wildly dated despite being released upon the world not just a year ago?
Well, Garrett, this week we are going to be talking about Marilyn Manson's Heaven Upside Down, his most recent album released October 6th, 2017.
That's right, folks. We are entering week 3 of the October scare-a-thon. This week, Marilyn Manson, and not one of those Marilyn Manson albums with the hits. Tim, is this a show that focuses on the hits?
Ideally, yes. The terrible, terrible hits.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had picked something a little more accessible, but that's okay. Somebody bought this album, and you're listening now. I know you are. Tim, I don't want to waste a moment. Do you hate this album?
I think I do this week, Garrett. I think I hate this album.
Been a bit since you've been that certain up front. What's got you feeling fairly certain?
It's not a good album. It's really, really bad. For the most part. What about you? Do you hate this album?
I really don't know.
Ooh, I get to get you there.
Well, okay, hold on. Before you start all your getting you there talk, I want to put right up front, I probably hate this. I dislike it strongly.
All right, so you're not going to make me work too hard to get you there is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is, if I end up getting to the point that I hate it, it is through my own work and you in no way can claim any sort of contribution to it.
So you get yourself a little bit of the way there, then I get you there a little bit of the way, then you, then me, then you, then me, then lunch, then you a little, and then I kind of finish it off.
Bring it home?
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't what I was saying at all, but because I feel like this won't stop, I'll just go ahead and agree. Tim, is this the first time your Marilyn's been Mansoned?
Whenever I was in middle school to early high school, maybe, I had some MP3s, a couple of burn CDs that had some of his songs, The Beautiful People, Sweet Dreams. Whenever I was actually interested in his music, my mom really seemed to buy into the idea that he was some sort of devil man. She would not let me get his music.
That's so odd. As a grown adult man now, I can see one thing if it was wildly obscene, but that's not really the case.
In her defense, it might have had something to do with those breasts that he had for a while.
Yeah, your mom's not a huge fan of sexual androgyny.
No, you know what? She did not like Bowie for the entire 70s, specifically for that reason. She loved his music, but every time she saw him, she's like, nope, can't do that.
I'm glad she came around. It's sad that it took to the 80s because it gets real weird in the 80s. Some of it's good.
But what about you? Is this the first time your supermodel's first name has been serial killer's last named? Is that right?
Sadly, I think it is accurate, but you've got to do better in the future. That's just, I mean, I get it. I took the easy one, but work harder, man. No, I knew the first couple of albums. I had already checked out by Dope Show, so I was checked out pretty early. I did, however, enjoy the early works when I was in middle school.
Sure.
Other than that, though, to be perfectly honest, I had no idea he had put out so many albums.
I kind of thought that he stopped recording and releasing albums probably around 2000, but that's mostly because everyone just unanimously stopped caring. We really kind of did a Pauly Shore on it.
It's a classic Pauly Shore.
Yeah, all the outrage just stopped one day. Christian groups were just like, I'm sure there's somebody else. Let's move on.
And I can't say he didn't deserve it. Arguably more than Pauly Shore.
Well, everyone deserves it more than Pauly Shore. He is, you know how they always say that kids are our future and they're our greatest resource?
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, it's Pauly Shore on both accounts.
No.
He is our future and he is our greatest resource.
Do you remember that time he told us a very long story about gophers and his neighbor?
Yeah, his neighbor, I believe, was Wes Craven. Speaking of Halloween.
His neighbor was Wes Craven. He told us a very long story about gophers and Wes Craven and potential lawsuits. Don't know why.
It was funny, I think. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Before we start talking in detail about this album, I think we have to better understand Marilyn Manson, the man behind the band. So Tim, take us on a journey back in time and help us to learn the history of one Mr. Marilyn Manson and his family band.
Marilyn Manson, who I should note Garrett has been demanding all week that we call Eminem, but with Marshall, Bruce Mathers, and Mark McGrath already kind of vying for that title, it might be confusing, so I'm going to veto that right up top. And
that was you.
I think it's a bad idea. Shame on Garrett.
You.
But anyway, M and also M was born with...
No. Stop it.
Mr. Manson was born with the slightly less exotic name Brian Hugh Warner.
I was going to call him Hugh.
Oh, I like Hugh. It's very classy and British. Mm-hmm. Hugh was born in the lovely town of Canton, Ohio in 1969. He was an only child, which I think makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. He went to an Episcopal church in high school until 10th grade, whenever he transferred to a local public school. And weirdly, I couldn't find any information on him being interested at all in playing music at a young age like most of the musicians we talk about on this show.
Agreed.
But apparently his private school seemed to be more geared toward what music not to listen to that had the exact opposite effect as intended.
Yep. No easier way to get kids hooked on heavy metal and the like than to say, don't ever listen to this.
Sure. But Snopes.com swears this isn't the case, but they are clearly and obviously part of the lying liberal cuck media, so this is probably true. Before his quote-unquote music and mayhem career, Mr. Manson, Hugh, played Paul Pfeiffer, Kevin Arnold's geeky sidekick on The Wonder Years. IMDb, again, obviously overrun by lying liberals itself, will tell you that the character of Paul was played by Josh Saviano. Mm-hmm. But I heard online that it was Marilyn Manson. People are saying it was Marilyn Manson.
It wasn't.
So no word yet from the boys in the lab as to exactly why this cover-up exists, but it is worth noting that he also played Keith Owens on Mr. Belvedere.
Neither of those things are true.
Not content to be just kind of terrible in Ohio, Hugh moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida with his parents at 18, and he attended a community college there. He studied music journalism, and he started writing for a local music magazine. In 1989, he forms Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids with his friend Scott, and Scott would go on to become Daisy Berkowitz because that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But Scott wanted to be the vocalist originally, but ended up as the guitarist because clearly Mr. Manson, Hugh, has a pretty goddamn good voice. Obviously, we're going to go with him.
Tend to disagree. I also want to just pause for a moment. The original name of the band, folks, Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids. It's a way better name, and it's such an appropriate name for our October scare-tacular,
Honestly, drop the Marilyn Manson, just go with the Spooky Kids.
That's even better.
They also managed to snag bassist Olivia Newton-Bundy, but he or she was quickly replaced by Gidget Gein. And then they got keyboardist Madonna Wayne Gacy and drummer Sarah Lee Lucas soon after, who replaced a drum machine.
Don't worry about that poor little drum machine. He'll be back.
It's really the hero of this story. They have a pretty eccentric stage show, homemade special effects, and elaborate makeup, and they get kind of a large following in South Florida, which we need to stop right here. This is weird coming from South Florida, right?
South Florida has a huge goth scene and hard metal.
Yeah, it's so strange.
It's weird as all get out, but there was a huge scene for this back then.
It boggles my mind to see just a crowd of people walking around in that shitty black makeup and Hot Topic clothing in fucking Miami in the middle of summer.
Can't imagine it.
Just think about how sweaty and stinky they all are. That might be the entire reason for the aggression.
Oh, yeah. They're so tired of smelling themselves.
Each other, too.
There's a pretty strong stink barrier going on with those jinkos.
Yeah, we've gone rock climbing and been trapped outside together for a while, and then we had to drive sometimes hours home in a car. It's unpleasant, and I kind of wanted to write a Manson song. Maybe a Korn song, maybe a Slipknot song, but the point is that stink will make you write some pretty terrible music.
God, that wasn't my point.
Oh.
My point was that the humidity in Florida is like walking into somebody's mouth.
All right, fair enough.
And why would you wear pants in that? You don't wear pants when you're in someone's mouth.
I'm just going to blow right past this. Marilyn Manson and the Spooky Kids self-released a few cassettes, late 80s, early 90s. In 1993, Trent Reznor signed them to Nothing Records, and they started recording Portrait of an American Family. Their original producer, Raleigh, went kind of in a pop-tinged, shiny direction, which Hugh really didn't care for. So they basically recorded the whole thing in LA with Trent Reznor. They also kicked Geen out around the same time for being too into heroin and replaced a lot of the drums on the album with keyboards and drum machines. The album gets released in 94. They opened for Nine Inch Nails on the Downward Spiral tour. They also released Smells Like Children in 95, which has that cover of Sweet Dreams.
I gotta say, such a great name.
Yeah.
Smells Like Children. That's fucking creepy.
Yeah. One of the issues I have with this album, not to jump ahead here, is that he's really trying to make this creepy and off-putting. And it is off-putting, but it's not off-putting in like the way he's intending.
No.
Smells Like Children. I am uncomfortable with that name in the exact right amount that he would have me be. It's perfect. They kind of take off after that in 95. The band then releases a trio of kind of concept albums. In 96 saw Antichrist Superstar, the one with the beautiful people on it. And Manson described this, and I'm going to quote him here, as being partially about a populist demagogue who is driven solely by resentment, misanthropy, and despair, and uses his newfound position to destroy the world. Just going to let that sit there.
I'll tell you what, we're going to get into it later, but this guy's got a wild history of providing a definition of what a song is about. And then when you look at the words, I'm sorry, no, it isn't. Clearly started early.
That's maybe not what that album's about, but it's definitely what our world's about.
Oh, yeah, that's 100% true.
He called it.
Oh, are you implying that he can see the future?
No, I'm just saying that 20 years in advance, he called it. I do not think he can see the future. I do not think he's a time traveler. I think he's a weird little kid who saw a pretty goddamn good marketing opportunity.
Maybe he has some sort of shining.
Yeah.
Okay.
He can talk to an old caretaker and possibly to a house, but that's it.
Yeah, that really was the sum of his abilities, right?
Yeah, it's not that impressive. In 98, Mechanical Animals comes out, and that is the one with the aforementioned sexy cover, where he's kind of like an alien Buffalo Bill.
He is an alien Buffalo Bill.
Right, it's sexy. That's my point.
Well, hold on. Tim, normally I give you a pass on this stuff, but this just crosses all lines of decency. He's not sexy.
He's trying to be sexy?
Right, but it sounds like...
I don't think that's right either.
Why? What is he trying to be?
I don't know, man. He's trying to be Buffalo Bill, and that is not sexy.
What if you're some sort of futuristic alien Buffalo Bill?
Oh, back around to sexy. And see, that's the issue. Yeah.
I see. But I know what's under all that prosthetic.
You know...
Hold on. Why am I siding with you at all? Not sexy. Let's move on.
It was more of a Bowie-inspired kind of glam rock thing. Then 2000, he releases Hollywood, about a guy who starts a countercultural revolution that then gets commercialized. It's basically that episode from Black Mirror.
Which one?
The one with the stationary bikes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is where I checked out. I did not hear anything from this album forward.
During this whole period, he's constantly being picketed by Christians who love giving him free publicity for some reason, and they were pretty pissed off because of all the drug use, the bestiality, the satanic rituals that included both animal and actual human sacrifice that occurred nightly on stage. Joe Lieberman and Sam Brownback led Senate hearings about his music. Venues and cities tried to cancel him. The ACLU countersued a bunch of these places. Suicides get blamed on him. Columbine gets blamed on him. In general, he's a very dangerous person who Jesus really needs to stop.
When we had congressional hearings on this guy, what was their goal?
It's unclear.
So we officially ban you from music.
Yeah, I really don't understand what the outcome could have possibly been. It might be like the UN resolutions where they come together to condemn something and then not actually stop it from happening, even though they very much have the authority and power to do so.
And agree that it's bad.
Right. Well, except for whenever the US, Russia, or China vetoes it.
Well, yeah, then it's officially not bad.
Right. After 2000, everyone just stops giving a shit and he really loses relevance. He continues to release an album every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, he releases 5 more from that point to the album that we're talking about today.
Yeah, and I've never heard the titles of most of these, frankly.
Nope.
At this point, he's just not cool enough for people to kill themselves or their classmates and teachers over anymore. So that problem just sort of worked itself out, and that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Who's getting protested now, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Democrats?
Civility and decency.
Yeah, also during this period, he kind of stopped insisting that his other band members take the first name of a supermodel and the last name of a serial killer, so that's nice of him. He also has a few other spooky business ventures.
Like a spooky frozen yogurt.
Basically.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Not to be outdone by the perfume peddling pop stars that we feature on the show fairly frequently, he made Mansynth, his own brand of Swiss-made absinthe, which came in second to Versynth in an absinthe competition, but won the gold medal at the 2008 San Francisco World Spirits Competition.
If you're on your way to the 2019 World Spirits Competition, just go ahead and veer that car right into a mountain or nearby ravine, because it's over for you. That's a huge waste of time.
Listen, Garrett, I like to try absinthe from all over the world. I like to drink as much of it as possible, get as much of it in me. Sometimes if it's made of Manson or made by Manson, and get a little of that in me. You can't find some of these spirits if you don't go to the World Spirit Competition.
I stand corrected. I like to get as much absinthe as possible in my body in as public a place as I can.
It's a good plan. He's also a watercolor painter. Garrett, you know this. Our audience may not know this, but watercolor is the spookiest of painting media.
Of course, I know that.
Yeah, just check out the works of Winslow Homer if you don't believe that. He also has made music for video games and appeared in a few movies. He was trying to get a pretty spooky biopic of Lewis Carroll made. I actually watched the trailer for it. It looks fucking terrifying. But I don't think that's happening anymore.
No, after he squandered hundreds of thousands of dollars on production, see cocaine.
And absinthe.
They shut it down.
This album, Heaven Upside Down, this was released to pretty little fanfare in 2017. On the tour for this, a stage prop fell on Mr. Manson, breaking his leg and forcing them to reschedule part of the US tour. But I found possibly my favorite fact that I've ever found on this show doing research for these bands.
Wow. Lay it on us.
About a month after this album was released, November 2017, Charles Manson dies in prison. Mm-hmm. And then there was a flurry of these hilarious, heartbroken Twitter messages from just idiots who were apparently just learning for the very first time that first names exist. So, for example, R.I.P. Charles Manson, frowny face, I'm in shock right now. I can't believe he's dead, gone too soon. R.I.P. Charles Manson, he taught me it was okay to be weird. R.I.P. Charles Manson, you'll be greatly missed. Fucking awesome. Wow. Every one of those people is so stupid and such a genius at the same goddamn time. I love it.
God, that's really funny. Some additional fun facts that I learned in the history towards the back of the dossier. Tim, do you remember, didn't we have an album that featured Miss Dita Von Teese?
We did.
Wasn't she friends with Dee Antwoord? Didn't you watch an elaborate cabaret strip show starring Miss Dita Von Teese?
Oh, yes.
And then describe it in a manner that made me uncomfortable.
It made you uncomfortable in the pants, but yes.
No, it made me uncomfortable in this room because your eye contact was
intense.
Rigid.
Intense.
Turgid?
I mean, it was a little turgid.
Apparently, these two were engaged to get married for a couple of years before, like many other women before her, decided, wow, you bang a lot of people that aren't me and do more cocaine than 3 horses in a cocaine factory. They have huge nostrils.
And they love cocaine.
Everybody knows that. I'm utterly shocked. He seems to attract fairly attractive women on a regular basis, only to follow the same pattern of cheating on them, getting wildly intoxicated on drugs and alcohol, and then abusing them. Not physically, just being a terrible, terrible, terrible boyfriend.
If you look at him, he seems like he would be a good boyfriend.
Well, why do you say that?
Well, he's got that eye makeup on. Seems like he's engaging in their interests.
That's true. It's very rare you're going to have a boyfriend that has a lot of opinions on eyeshadow.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sure they both have a purse, or maybe they can share a purse and take turns holding it.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's got something sticky in that purse.
Yeah, you know what? You don't want to let Marilyn Manson store anything in your purse. I did some digging on his association with Satan, and I think that's important.
Is there one?
Well, sort of. He's a big fan of, and I think you're a pretty big fan of this guy, Aleister Crowley.
Oh, yeah. He is my Dark Lord.
Right. He started this Thelemic religion, which on the surface sounds pretty cool. The whole basis of it is the only rule is do as you'd like.
Yeah, do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. I'm well acquainted.
Oh my God. Are you a part of the Thelemic religion?
I am, yes.
That is an exact quote. I think I can sum up the credibility of Mr. Aleister Crowley with one sentence. He was good buddies with L. Ron Hubbard just before Scientology got cracking.
Oh, now he seems kind of like a fraud.
Yeah, they used to get together and perform pagan rituals that were really just a long con to have orgies, or at least sex with each other's girlfriends and wives. L. Ron Hubbard partied hard.
Absolutely. He got that whole party boat where no one else was partying on it except for him.
But what a party. He definitely has an appreciation, dare I say, a love affair with Satan.
Yeah, he seems into him, but
I assumed it was all a joke. I always assumed that Marilyn Manson went home, washed the dye out of his hair, gave his face a good scrub, maybe an exfoliant, and then put on a pair of fucking jeans and a t-shirt and running shoes and was just like, awesome. Maybe enjoys, an episode of Will and Grace. But I don't think any of that's happening to him. I think he keeps all that shit on and he goes home and he reads satanic occult books, does a mountain of cocaine, and then, Manson's around his house.
I'm kind of torn. His career seems like a Rob Zombie or like an original Slipknot. A lot of it seems pretty gimmicky.
I think the performances are gimmicky, but the root of it, I don't think he stumbled onto this look. Like, this is his look, whether he's Marilyn Manson or Brian Hugh Warner.
But the whole gimmick is something that I think he has taken varying degrees of seriously throughout his career. I mean, I've seen quite a few interviews with him. Kind of most prominently, I think, was the Michael Moore Bowling for Columbine. And personality-wise, he's not always Marilyn Manson. He's Hugh.
No. Yeah, he is much more of a Hugh when you sit down and talk to him.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. I think he is a moderately well thought out person that understands this is all performance or art, sort of. I guess what I'm putting to you, Tim, and I'm putting to the listener is, does this guy believe in Satan? And if so, is he worshiping him?
I'm inclined to say no. I think he's a big fan of occult things. I think a lot of this has to do with him having the bad luck of moving to Florida. It's just a place where bad ideas flourish. And I think that he latched on to this persona really early in his career. And as it just took off, he just sort of started believing the bullshit. And I think that this is just him feeding off the fans liking the bit, if you will.
You're probably right. Let me first say that. But what's weird about that to me is that, all right, well, I'm going to go out and perform for 2 hours and sing a bunch of songs about something that I know to be utter nonsense. Wouldn't you feel silly?
I would, yes. But it depends. How much money am I getting for doing that?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a big sellout, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I am too.
Well, right. I mean, think about how much money... I don't believe any of the stuff I say on this show. It's for the delicious, delicious money.
Wait, what money?
The sponsorship deals,
The show's making money?
The Ethan Hawke giving us money to make the show. The Dr. Pepper sponsored a couple of episodes.
Tim, I haven't seen a cent of any of this money.
Right. They sponsor me to make them look good on the show.
Nobody has ever turned to you to improve their image.
That's not true. You once paid me to stand next to you so you'd seem less terrible.
Okay, that did happen.
Right.
I stand corrected.
I mean, we're into general thoughts now, I think. Right?
Yeah, we've moved right into it.
He's made good music in the past. I know he's capable of making good music. I can't think of an album that I like all the way through. In the 90s, there was at least a couple of good songs on every album. This is an album made by somebody with absolutely nothing to say. This seems like the time of your career when you tour, you play the greatest hits, you release a greatest hits album, and that's kind of it. You got to do the Rolling Stones thing at this point.
Well, he's in a tough spot because he can't go solo. He can't Rob Zombie it.
That's true.
I mean, unless he wants to come out as like Hugh Manson or Marilyn Hugh.
I think just Hugh. Like Cher.
What if he came out, no makeup, maybe dyes his hair blonde, and he just comes out as simply Hugh?
Are you saying he comes out with the name of Hugh or with the name of Simply Hugh?
Come on, Tim, who you talking to?
I love Simply Hugh.
Track 1, I Just Want to Be Me. Track 2, There's Tears Behind My Eyeshadow. Anyway, so this was produced by a guy who does a lot of soundtrack work for TV. Mm-hmm. And I think it shows in a couple of these songs, but I learned a fun story about these two's relationship. The producer, one Tyler Bates, said the incident stemmed from Manson breaking beer bottles so that he could cut himself while on stage, but the shards were hitting the drummer Gil. I got really pissed and I told him to stop with the fucking glass. So he's like, kicked a bottle and it hit me on stage and I just had enough. I said, what the fuck? So instead of the bottle, he pulls out a box cutter and says, you want me to cut you open with this box cutter, Tyler Bates? To which Mr. Tyler Bates replies, you fucking come near me and I'll kill you with that box cutter. Bates then renames his production company Box Cutter Music. I'm happy to report there were no box cutter incidents in the recording of this album, but a lot of his time is spent recording for TV. And I think that especially in the latter half of this album, it kind of shows.
Do you think he's the guy that does that Law and Order thing?
No, I think that guy's dead.
Oh.
They probably just did it the once.
Oh.
Not every show can be The Simpsons. You know they play that entire theme song completely start to finish for every new episode?
That can't be true, and I'm assuming you're a liar.
That is true. Google that shit.
The musical part of this album, to be fair, is not bad for most of it. Maybe half of it.
Yeah, that's so hard to say because there's so many caveats, but yes, I agree. By and large, the music is not bad.
It's pretty conventional rock music. I don't have a lot of complaints with the majority of it.
It's what I would expect. And by and large, he has very talented musicians playing on it. So it's not a big shock to find out that, yeah, it sounds like music.
And the lyrics are almost exclusively terrible. A lot of them sound like they're kind of just parodies of his earlier songs.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the cover of this album?
You remember Grandma's Boy?
Oh, you son of a bitch. Don't look at my notes.
He looks exactly like, I think his name is JP.
That is his name.
And it's so unfortunate.
It's so funny.
Jesus Christ.
Marilyn Manson likes to talk an awful lot about Marilyn Manson. In a rare opportunity, Tim, I can tell you in Hugh's own words what he thinks about this album. He says, we've got some very intense, alchemical, scientific, binaural sounds that sometimes even make me have a panic attack while I'm listening to it. The sounds are most prevalent in the title track and Saturnalia. What?
There's some of those words that I just actually don't know what they mean. Put together, I can guarantee they don't mean anything.
Right. Did you find any part of this album particularly intense?
No, I didn't.
He has given several interviews where he suggests that the entire arc of this album is supposed to be one big story about two people falling in love, it going south, and then ultimately leaving him heartbroken and alone again.
I didn't think there was even a song that related to that.
I think that the latter half attempts this to some degree, but the front half of this album, I'm pretty confused for most of it.
Yeah, and you're right to be, because it's a lot of nonsense, Garrett.
Yeah.
You want to get into these songs?
Yeah. Track number 1, Revelation number 12.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Garrett, Revelations come in 12. I'm not going to say it again, but he does.
I'm so confused why you count to 10 and then state that Revelations come in 12s.
It's as if this was designed as a specific assault on my OCD. I will fight him with a box cutter, Garrett, or a bottle, whatever his weapon of choice.
He likes to bleed.
If you're going to do the counting, throw an 11 in there. It's not hard.
Boy, you know what? It didn't even occur to me that you could just throw an 11 in there. I would have said count to 12 and then say that the Revelations come in 12. But you know what? Yours is way better. I think it might be a reference to a very old Sesame Street cartoon where they would sing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I don't think it's that.
Okay, here's what the internet says it's about. The number of horns on a dragon's head from Revelations. So explain that.
I read that and decided to exclude that, because good God. I read a lot of genius annotations for this song that ended up redirecting me to the Bible, Revelation chapter 12. And after reading Revelation chapter 12, I just don't give a fuck.
About the Bible or this song?
Both.
This is not that bad of a song to me. The lyrics are ridiculous.
Yes.
But as far as the music goes, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. It has a line in here that I kind of like. The line is, too stupid to call themselves evil, so they call themselves heroes.
Yeah, that's a fairly well put together line.
Yeah, and it's a spot on observation about the world in general for the last 2 decades on pretty much every side.
You're so sad and cynical, Tim.
Yeah, everything is terrible, Garrett. 40 weeks of nonsense, of not sleeping, of editing constantly, of constantly trying to think of funny things to say, and then you get my notes and you steal it the day before, and then I have to write a whole nother goddamn bit. I hate you.
Don't leave your notes on the kitchen table.
The intro to this song drives me fucking crazy. The Genius annotation says playing God, and then in parentheses behind that it says times 27. Garrett, I should never see times 27 in any lyrics ever.
I was just happy he said it pretty quickly. He makes 27 times feel like 12.
Compliments abound. We might end up both liking this. I think it's kind of an obnoxious way to end a song by shouting "you're welcome" a bunch.
Yeah, a little self-congratulatory there, Hugh.
Yeah. What's more irritating, though, I don't know if you noticed this, really low in the mix whenever he's doing that, there's what sounds like a police siren.
Oh, I could hear it, Tim.
Yeah.
I could hear it loud and clear in my car.
Yes, I agree. I had a fucking Garrett moment this week. Every time I heard this, I turned it off, I turned it back on. I was like, okay, well, I'm not 100% sure the siren stopped. So I'm checking my rearview mirrors, trying to make sure I'm not getting pulled over. Fuck you, don't put this in your song.
I got a little nervous there. I was curious what we were calling a Garrett moment, but that's okay. That's pretty benign. I'll take that.
I mean, it's not the only verb of your name, but that's the one that relates to this.
Well, I just took a huge Tim.
Yeah.
No, God, you shouldn't be okay with that.
Wait, it depends. I assumed it was a really good thing.
Could be viewed through that lens, sure.
Track number 2, Tattooed in Reverse.
Opens pretty aggressively, doesn't it?
Yeah. Musically, I didn't hate this. It kind of sounds like an early Hani El Khatib kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of the first Danger Mouse era Black Keys albums. They ruin it fairly quickly, but the intro music isn't terrible.
Yeah, this song goes all over the place. He opens with "fuck your Bible and your Babble."
Mm-hmm.
In case there was any confusion, this guy is not super pumped about Christianity.
I made this psalm into a dirty bomb, so dance, motherfucker, dance. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's nonsense.
What does tattooed in reverse mean? Is that like an unring the bell kind of sentiment? Or, I mean, I don't think it is, but that's all I could come up with.
Okay. Boy, I noodled on this for days. And I think that it is a subtle recognition that he is no longer relevant. So, obviously, tattooed in reverse. What's the opposite of being tattooed? Erased.
Oh, I was going to say bare, but yes.
What?
You know, untattooed, blank.
I'm blank.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
You know, a lot of people have said that my face is sort of a blank on the internet, on our Facebook, on our Twitter.
Yep.
And I don't care for it.
It's so funny.
It's not funny. It's rude.
It's not, well, it is rude. Absolutely. For strangers to openly say that you have no discernible physical characteristics as a human being is incredibly rude.
Yes.
It's hilarious. I like it when they call you a thumb.
Well, no, that one I'm okay with. The thumb is the best finger. It's the one that makes your hand work.
It doesn't make your hand work. It certainly helps your hand to work.
I mean, look, if you've got some sort of like apish thumbless mitt, I mean, you kind of do have horrible ape mitts for hands.
Now that is rude.
It's accurate. They're more callous than hands, and they've been that way for as long as I've known you.
I'm a hardworking man, Tim.
You are not.
Hardworking men have calluses. So, tattooed in reverse clearly means erased from society. He seems to be admitting his time has passed. He says, you can't play this game. You've lost all the pieces. I'm sure someone else will pay for your sins, but I'm not convinced by your costume. This ain't my goddamn cup of tears. So what I think he's saying here is that you can no longer play the game. You don't have the pieces, the talent, the understanding of where culture has moved to. And then he says, I'm sure someone else will pay for your sins. As all things continue to move forward and escalate, entropy, I think is what you might say there. Everything becomes more severe, more crazy. I mean, look, some of the most popular rapists in the world are covered in face tattoos. That wouldn't have been normal 20 years ago.
So whenever he says, I'm unscabbed,
Well, out of context, Tim, it's hard for me to know.
Let me give you the context. I'm unscabbed and unregretted.
Okay, I got it. So he's no worse for the wear, and society doesn't really regret the time they gave him all their attention because they know that it was largely just a fleeting fancy and he'll go away eventually.
Correct on the second point, incorrect on the first. Unscabbed means he's picking his scabs off.
Oh, so they're oozing? I just thought they didn't exist.
No. They're removed.
Are you a scab picker, Tim?
I'm not.
Yeah, you don't seem like one.
But I am a guy that gets a lot of scabs.
Oh, yeah. You're, what, 62% scab?
No, Garrett, no. That's ridiculous. Everything you're saying is stupid. My point is, I get a lot of skin knees and elbows in my daily work. I'm like rough and tumble.
What?
It's unclear what I'm actually doing. The point is, those knees and elbows
get their fair share of raspberries.
That's true. Is the line, "Your confession means nothing," an American Psycho reference?
I read that online. I believe it is not.
Okay.
Well, isn't the next line, "So fuck your attrition"?
Yes.
I think it's more related to that.
I don't think lines have to relate to each other. We learned that last week, Garrett.
Just because Rob Zombie says they don't have to, I think conventional wisdom would say they still do.
Oh, then I have misinterpreted quite a bit of this album.
Well, I'm sure you have either way. This thing morphs into some sort of weird borderline dubstep at some point.
Oh, that is all over this album. And from what I've read, the 2000s and maybe early 2010s were quite a dubsteppy time for Mr. Manson.
Apparently it just hasn't stopped. I guess as more and more people leave the band, he's forced into a scenario where he has to replace them with loops.
Yeah, various computers and such.
Right. For some reason, I'm picturing like a Gateway or like an old Dell.
Track number 3, We Know Where You Fucking Live.
So what's a nice place like this?
This is either a song designed for angry and angsty teenage boys or possibly for the military to listen to just prior to going into battle.
It's really hard for me to have a conversation about this. You hipped me to the music video, and I'm not saying we need to talk about it yet. But once I watched that music video, I was ruined for this song.
I'm going to be real honest with you. The music video is the only thing I knew about this album. It's the only thing I knew about Marilyn Manson's career for the past 17 years, and it is 100% the reason that I suggested this album. I knew nothing else other than this album has to be great.
It turns out you were wrong. This music video did nothing but create confusion for me as to what in the world this song could even be about.
It's nuns in high-heeled boots marching down the street. The nuns undress to reveal latex bodysuits and assault rifles. Manson joins. They attack a suburb. They shoot some people. They break into a house. It gets real rapey at the end there.
It gets remarkably rapey.
Yes, it's sort of a Purge meets Funny Games, if anyone's seen that movie. This is part of my theory that this is all an act, because this music video is just screaming for people to protest him so that he can be popular again. It seems very desperate. It's also kind of arousing.
It's a little erotic. We're not going to sugarcoat it, okay? We're adults here. People were aroused.
Yes.
Watching this. Can you answer something for me? It's been plaguing me all week. Are the nuns working in Congress with Mr. Manson, or are they enemies that join up? I'm so confused.
I believe that they're enemies that join up, because there's a moment, maybe a quarter of the way in, where they're all pointing guns at the house, and then he kind of comes up from behind them with his own gun. And there's like this weird standoff, and then they kind of just shrug, and he goes around back of the house to help assault people.
He goes into the back of the house, and I thought he was going to help them all escape, but then he just starts, well, I don't even want to say what he starts doing.
You know what he starts doing? It's the Steve Buscemi from Con Air. That's what he's doing. He's going to drag that girl out of the window to have a tea party, and at the end, it's going to be unclear whether or not she's a ghost, is my point.
Is that what you think? You think that little girl's a ghost at the end of Con Air?
I do.
Well, I happen to know for a fact originally that movie didn't show the little girl after the tea party.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Waving goodbye.
That was a test screener, right?
Yeah, and everyone in the audience was just like, what happened to the little girl? Did Garland Green eat that little girl?
He did. And then her ghost is waving goodbye because she enjoyed the tea party prior to the horrible murder. Same thing in this song is my point.
Okay.
This song is designed for teen boys. Maybe it's designed to incur outrage. It's possibly also designed for the military to listen to kind of just before going into battle. The lyrics here.
But don't show them the video.
No. They will be too aroused to go into battle.
I can't, Sarge. I got too many boners.
That's right. That is what would happen.
Oh, nothing kills a boner like live fire.
Untrue.
Please don't ever elaborate.
All right. This was the first single. Why would you release this as any single?
I get it. As you pointed out, this is an outrage generator. So he's got to build hype.
That's fair.
This whole song seems to be geared towards an old enemy of this show, someone we haven't talked about in years. Well, weeks at least. Squares.
That's true. He does not seem to like the suburbs.
Or conformists.
Yeah. I think you said it best, squares. He is not a fan of squares. And he wants to get a bunch of sexy nuns together with machine guns to go murder them, and then also to Steve Buscemi their daughter.
Right. Well, okay, so now that we've really talked about it, are you implying that all of those... Well, I guess they did. I was going to say, are you implying that all the people in that house after the erotic adventure were all murdered? But I've already had that question answered. Yeah. I forgot the camera moves to the outside of the house where you see several flashes of a muzzle. They kill all those people.
Yeah. And whenever they're firing at the house, some jogger comes by, kind of gives them a funny look, and one of them just turns around and shoots that guy a bunch.
I kind of liked that part. I'm not going to lie. And let me explain, I am not for the random killing of anyone.
We should be clear, the Why I Hate This Album podcast is not for the random killing of anyone. We endorse a surgical, targeted killing of a very specific few people. You know who you are.
Right. But in this instance, in the music video, there's a bunch of nuns in pleather bodysuits firing assault rifles in the streets. You're just going to wander up there and be like, oh, excuse me. What are you guys doing?
It's loud.
We are killing everyone. What do you mean, what are we doing? Why? You deserve to die. You know what? No explanation. Death is what you get. Excuse me? Me and my family are inside trying to watch The Voice. Okay, it's the semifinals. So if you ladies could just keep it... Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah.
You don't question people firing assault rifles in the streets. This isn't Syria.
Jesus Christ. Track number 4, Say 10. Garrett, I hate this, and I know that you can see my notes at this moment. Our listeners can't tell, but I've spelled the word hate with an H and then the number 8 because that's apparently what we're doing in 2017. Fuck this.
Okay, so you like laughing at me, right?
Yes. Oh, you love this song.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a fucking idiot. How many days?
Until just now.
No. Probably 2. But I believe it was 2 days in before I literally...
You're so stupid.
Yeah, sometimes I really do scare myself.
Oh, explain though.
Before I said, oh, Satan. In my defense, that is one of the stupidest things an adult man has ever written.
Absolutely. I didn't get it just by reading the title, but as soon as he starts screaming Satan, specifically you say God, I say Satan, it didn't take more than once.
There's a lot in this song. There's a lot of really odd elements. Point 1. This song opens, and folks, I implore you, we usually say steer clear of these albums. Just go listen to the opening of track number 4.
And watch the music video for track number 3.
Not at the same time. Well, maybe the same time, because this song, Satan, opens like a New Kids on the Block or an Usher song.
Yes.
At least a few times. The first few times I checked to make sure I hadn't accidentally moved off the album somehow. I know how much you enjoy whisper singing. This guy is taking whisper singing to a level we didn't even think possible.
Oh, this guy looked at J-Devil and said, me too.
Yeah. He saw what he was doing with it and he said, I can do better.
Yeah.
We can go quieter. I can do it longer.
I kind of thought you were going to... actually like this song. And the reason is, anytime one of these artists is talking about God and how much they love Jesus, you like to switch God and the devil in those songs to make it more interesting. So I wasn't sure if you liked it or if you would be annoyed that he kind of stole your bit with the you say God, I say Satan.
Again, you've got to stop reading my notes. Tim, there it is right there. He ruined my bit. You can't do it in reverse. It just kind of makes it some sort of weird Christian rock song.
Well, there's a lot of profanity and sexy nuns for Christian rock.
Well, not in this song.
There's a line in here where he says cocaine and Abel.
Because he's clever.
Right, yeah, that is great wordplay. It sounds like the title of a punk song from a really shitty high school punk band that is definitely not going to make it.
I have never, ever once in my entire life seen Marilyn Manson doing cocaine. I have on multiple occasions heard several different people with very similar stories describing him doing entirely too much cocaine. I have heard many people describing being trapped in Marilyn Manson's home, trying to speak to him while he does furious amounts of cocaine. Not only does he do an obnoxious amount of drugs, he seems to be one of these people that wants you to know how cool he is for doing them.
Yeah, he definitely is.
There are multiple points in many of these songs where he very obviously is referencing, again, how much cocaine he does.
Well, a lot of times when you're on cocaine, you like to talk a lot. At some point, you run out of things to say, and the one thing you haven't mentioned is all that cocaine. Maybe now's the time to mention it.
Oh, maybe. The lyrics are absolutely pathetic. He says, "Oh, you should pray now. Is it above or is it below?"
Meaningless.
This is what began me down the road of wondering just how seriously does he take this? I feel as though for him, all things in life are a battle between God and Satan. Like, you have to pick one. And for me, this is just me, Tim, I always found the Satan portions of the Bible, or at least the Christian faith, to be the weakest part. At one point, the devil was a dragon. Did you know that? The Bible's got dragons in it?
Oh yeah, the Bible's got all sorts of things. The Bible has talking goats, Garrett.
I feel like a dragon's a lot more interesting than a talking goat.
It depends. Is that talking goat funny?
I don't know, man. Would that really matter?
It does.
But you have seen a funny goat.
No, I've laughed at goats before, sure, but I've never had one tell me a joke.
I have laughed with goats.
You need to stop doing mescaline at the goat farm.
Listen, it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's full of goats. Where would you do mescaline?
Anywhere but there, Garrett.
You've heard of goat yoga, haven't you?
Yes.
Same thing, goat mescaline. For somebody that denies Christianity and the existence of God or the importance of God or the tenets of God, I'm not sure what about God he doesn't like. Maybe he ignored him at a party once. I don't know. But he seems to be all in on Satan. So, as I talk it out, Tim, I think you might be right. I think that speaks to just how frivolous and meaningless this actually is to him.
The other option is that he really does believe in the Judeo-Christian God. He has just taken sides against him.
That's what I was hoping. If I was listening to an album that was fervently in support of Satan and gave me a number of reasons why I might want to change teams.
Hold on. Do you think you're on Jesus's team? Is that what you're saying?
He takes all comers, right? Did I miss tryouts?
Garrett, no. You and Jesus are not on the same team.
The Holy Ghost was holding a spot for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. Come on aboard then. But we're going to have to fight Marilyn Manson because he's on the devil's team, Garrett.
Is he?
No.
Oh.
This is all very, very stupid.
It is all very stupid. Let me ask you this, Tim. If God and Satan were real and
they are.
Okay. Assuming that Marilyn Manson could join God's side, Satan's side, or be on his own third side, what do you think he'd pick?
Probably his own side, because I think that is the side that he did pick. He is firmly on his own side. He is in this for money. That is my position.
Yeah, I think that's right. Do you think he would amass an army?
No, I think he'd just try to stay out of the way.
Yeah, I feel like he would just hide in a cave and do cocaine.
Track number 5, Kill For Me.
Let's grab a gold switchblade, make us a blood.
Manson's explanation for this song, it's very romantic. I wrote the songs almost as a poem. Editor's note, as all fucking songs are. I just simply said, would you kill for me? It was almost trying to make fun of the fact that I hate songs where people are whining and saying, I'd die for you. I don't like it when people ask questions in songs because they sound like pussies. It ends weird, I'll admit that.
It does end weird. Is he implying that he thinks he's the first one to ever ask, even in a song, let alone in humanity, would you kill for me?
I believe so, yes. Before that, it had always been, I would die for you.
He seems to think that he has come up with this on his own.
Yeah, well, that's kind of Manson's thing. He likes to turn everything on his head. It's like Metallica or the Beatles, how they, turn a phrase there. Manson's the first one to come up with that.
Like Metallica or the Beatles?
The Beatles, Metallica, Manson. There's a clear progression in wordplay.
Yep.
The Beatles invented wordplay. Metallica they brought it to a modern level, and then Manson has perfected it.
Right. Nobody else in there?
Nope.
Just those three?
No one else is involved. So I want to read a genius annotation for you. The end of the chorus here, kill, kill, kill for me. The genius annotation for kill, kill, kill for me. 3 Ks referencing the Ku Klux Klan, a white supremacy, white nationalism, and anti-immigration group. You could see this album being about Marilyn Manson representing a cult leader. This is not confirmed.
So he thinks that Marilyn Manson's secretly a leader of the KKK?
Well, but Garrett, he's very careful to say that this is not confirmed.
Right. Do we sound as insane when we shout allegedly after our theories?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I can't believe we've gotten this far into talking about this song and we haven't addressed his voice. It's Bowie-esque. Not in a good way. And to me, because he's so bad at singing, to me it comes off as a little Neil Diamond-y.
I kind of get it.
Okay, you have Bowie, the man who sold the world, but he can't be that clean with it. So it gets a lot raspier, and it turns a lot more into like forever in blue jeans. Because he's Marilyn Manson, he can't sing about blue jeans or some sweet Caroline. So he's got to talk about death and things like that. So it's a raspier Neil Diamond to me.
I cannot wait for Simply Hugh. I think it's going to be a good album.
Oh, I think it's going to be a great album.
If he did that, he can sing about his blue jeans and Sweet Caroline.
If he comes out as Simply Hugh, dyes that hair blonde, gets a good part going, comes out in a good pair of dungarees, and does some crooning, I will attend every single show I can.
We should absolutely go see that. It sounds great. We should be on the lookout. It might be a trap. If you see a bunch of nuns that are kind of sexy, we should not go in.
It's safe to assume that they're wearing leather bodysuits underneath and do intend to sexually... You know what? I'm going to stick around.
Well, we should watch from a safe distance. And then if it looks fun, we should advance.
So he spends most of this song asking if someone will kill for him as a sign of affection and or love. As you and I mentioned, this is not the first time a sentiment like this has been expressed in a song, despite what Marilyn Manson may say. But then he gets a little specific for my comfort level. He says, "But what happens when we are betrayed? Would you drag him to the shed and unload 6 rounds in their fucking face?" You've already got a shed picked out, and the number of rounds and where they go... Specifically the face.
Well, that part doesn't bother me at all.
You want to fill that face with bullets.
That's right.
If your objective is to kill that person.
Right. Well, yeah, of course. I shouldn't just go around all willy-nilly face bulleting people.
Well, God, no. The face, Tim, I gotta say, it is a huge sign of disrespect. At least there's no open casket there.
There's another line in this song, it's in the outro, where he yells, "Sideways for attention, long ways for results." Is that specific phrase an established thing in pop culture?
No.
I could not figure out where I'd heard that before, and after a fair amount of Googling and a fair amount of the internet telling me to get help, I came upon a clip from Family Guy where that exact phrase is used. I think it's a Family Guy reference.
Hey, Lois, if I was going to kill myself, do I slit my wrists this way or this way?
Sideways for attention, long way for results. Meg is right.
Okay, I'll be in the garage.
Huh. I mean, it's still a suicide reference.
Maybe it's a thing that the kids are out there saying to each other, like, you remember you and I, whenever we used to hang out, whenever we were kids? I mean, I was a kid, you were an adult, but we would say hi whenever we greet each other. Maybe this is like the new thing that the kids are saying to each other.
All that preamble was to remind me how we used to say hi?
Right, whenever you were an adult and I was a child, we would say hi to each other.
No, you were not a child. You were an adult person. You were a couple of years younger than me.
I
a child.
Still am.
I believe that there is a relative distance between the two of us, and one of us is aging faster than the other.
Well, then it's clearly you that's aging faster. Look at me and look at you.
Yeah, I can't argue with you there. You're just the same as the day I met you. Tim, and I want you to be real honest. Are you a vampire? Tim, hey, before you answer, you a vampire? Hey, come on.
Garrett.
You a vampire?
Garrett.
What?
Track number 6, Saturnalia.
This is an 8-minute song, Tim.
I know, it is inappropriate. 8 minutes is an offensive length for this man.
It's an offensive length for him, this album, and most importantly, this song.
I hate to keep referencing cartoons and The Simpsons, but there's a episode where Bart joins a boy band, and they're singing Even et Nuage, and it's just backward for Join the Navy. Every time this asshole says this is Saturnalia in reverse, that's all I could think of. Join the Navy. Garrett, join the Navy.
It'd be amazing if this song was a subliminal message for us to join the Navy.
You know, I don't think it is, but I have to admit something to you, Garrett.
Did you join the Navy?
I am a proud seaman.
Yes, you are. But did you join the Navy?
I don't understand your confusion. I did join the Navy. I am a proud seaman currently.
Also a proud seaman. Okay.
No,
Do you know what this song's about?
I think it's about the Francisco Goya painting Satan Devours His Children.
Oh, that's a pretty good guess. I thought it might be about Christmas.
Can't they both be right?
In this instance, absolutely.
Yeah, I think this song is his attempt at Francis Dollar hiding a painting. He's singing this so that the painting won't win.
Or possibly so the painting will come to life.
Oh, yes.
Which, side note, guys, we like to give out quick tips here on the show. You can sing to your horse to a painting. It will not come to life.
That's true. Paintings come to life whenever they decide to come to life. Or
That's
possibly
right,
sometimes whenever all of the bad feelings and the anger that happens in New York summers, whenever that's flowing underneath your painting.
Nope,
sometimes.
Tim, you're thinking of Ghostbusters 2 again.
You know, you're right. I was thinking of Ghostbusters 2. I apologize.
Yeah, that's Vigo the Carpathian.
Yep.
If it's not about Christmas or the festival of Saturn that preceded Christmas, then it might be about Terminator 2. I think that the song is sung from the Terminator's perspective, having lost. And I quote, "Just smile like a rifle, hot metal in the setting sun. So there he sits, side of the road," the Terminator, of course.
Are we talking Schwarzenegger Terminator, or is this the liquid metal Terminator that has lost?
This is the Schwarzenegger Terminator, the original Terminator, but it's the one from the second movie that's rescuing Sarah Connor.
Okay.
Come with me if you want to live. That one. The song says, "Just smile like a rifle, hot metal in the setting sun." Well, that's easy. He is a killing machine made of hot metal sitting in the setting sun. And Tim, I should mention, I am proposing that this is what happens after failing ultimately in Terminator 2. This is a failed Terminator.
Okay, so this is you're thinking this song is about Terminator 2, but Terminator 2 as you have reimagined it after listening to this song. You think that's what Marilyn Manson wrote this song about.
Exactly.
I'm right there with you.
I should mention there's going to be another Terminator that's supposed to be a direct sequel to Terminator 2, so it's clear things didn't work out. Back to my reading. By the roadside, all the bones picked clean. His ward, Sarah Connor, and her son John have died. They have been slowly decomposing in the sun of the desert. No gas in our machine. The truck has finally run out of gas. I will still be here to hold you. Now, this is what's interesting. He's still a machine, Tim. As human as he may seem on the outside, with that flesh wrapped around a robotic exoskeleton, he still only has core programming. Even though they're dead, he sticks by their side like that sad dog from that episode of Futurama I can't watch anymore.
Oh, yeah.
In the deafening void of our last sunset. So I think Judgment Day has come. Those nuclear bombs are going off everywhere. And it's not even, in fact, a real sunset, Tim. These are nuclear flashes in the distance going off around them as a Terminator weeps for the death of John and Sarah Connor. What do you think? Is it possible?
I think so. It's better than the Christmas. It's better than the Goya painting. It is not quite as good as telling you to join the Navy. And I say that as somebody who has recently joined the Navy, but it's a good theory. It fits.
Tim, what are you going to do about the Navy?
I swab decks, I think.
Oh, wow, you're in. I assumed you got fooled into this.
Oh, I did by this song. But the problem is I've already had some of our lawyers from the show look it over. It is a pretty ironclad contract.
Oh, I've heard that.
I may be doing these podcasts. We may have to do these over the phone. Maybe I'll do it from the deck. I think they have decks.
Oh, boy. You are in for a wild ride. I can't wait to get letters from you.
That would be actually great. You know, what we should do is you can write down all your thoughts. I'll write down all my thoughts. And then you could do the podcast by yourself where you do both parts just reading from my thoughts.
That sounds horrible.
The bass and drum in this thing, it's got kind of a White Zombie-ish vibe, but it's also, it kind of reminded me of The Cure, and it kind of reminded me of the Dandy Warhols.
Oh, Dandy Warhols. Better band.
Yes, somehow, yeah.
Well, in this case, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no.
Notice I did not say good band.
They got a couple of good songs.
They do.
But so does Marilyn Manson, and both of those things happened over 20 years ago. Track number 7, Jesus Crisis. And small note, all of the S's are $signs, like some sort of goddamn D-ant word.
Songs to fight and to fuck to. If you wanna fight, then
I'll write songs to fight and to fuck to. Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba. If you wanna fight, I'll fight.
Now, I like the idea of him coming out with blonde hair, blue jeans. He's got an acoustic guitar. He's got some strings behind him. He's got a full band. They're doing upbeat, positive music, but it's still pretty profane.
Yeah, it's still basically the same topics. He's found a new and creative way to say Satan involving numbers and letters that will confuse me.
God, I love that confused you so much. And for so very long, like an embarrassing, shameful amount of time.
Anyway, this song opens with a troubling conundrum. Which do you pick, Tim? And I quote, I write songs to fight and to fuck to. If you want to fight, then I'll fight you. If you want to fuck, I will fuck you. Make up your mind or I'll make it up for you. Tim?
Yep.
If I meet Marilyn Manson, do I have to do one of these things?
You do. Everyone does. That's why
I'm
he
gonna
has...
choose fight.
Right, absolutely. But that's why he gets the amount of sex that he gets, is because if he doesn't get the sex, then he fights people.
Well, he declares that he's going to decide for me if I dither.
Right. So he will come, let's say you're a young lady, you come up to Marilyn Manson, and he says, if you want to fight, then I'll fight you. If you want to fuck, I will fuck you. Make up your mind or I'll make it up for you. You can either pick to fight him, in which case he will fight you. You can pick to fuck him, in which case he will fuck you. Or he'll decide. And it doesn't really matter. You don't want Manson to have his Manson-y way with you. He's really going to just hew all over you. And that's gross.
I can't imagine he ever picks fight if it's up to him.
Well, it depends.
I don't think it does.
Oh, okay. Those seem like limited options that I don't think our good friend and sometimes contributor to this show, Lena Dunham, would approve of, certainly.
No. I don't see in any way where consent factors into those lyrics.
Yes, and we are all about advice, but we are also all about consent on this show. Another thing that we're all about is patriotism, as I've recently accidentally joined the Navy, but we're also a pacifist show because I am a coward. So,
yeah, you are the most patriotic coward I know. Your patriotism is exceeded only by your cowardice.
And vice versa.
Yeah, it's a real catch-22. Tim, have you heard that Marilyn Manson likes cocaine?
You've mentioned it on this show.
According to this song, he likes to snort that powder, that Snow White powder. Mm-hmm. White powder. Snow White powder.
So I think you're mistaken. Snow White is actually a Disney property that I think he is referencing.
You're 100% right, Tim. I would never say you're wrong about that. But what I will say you're a little misguided on is he's doing a bit of wordplay here. See, now Snow White is a code, if you will, so that narcs and squares, remember the squares earlier that they shot for no apparent reason?
I feel like you're painting me into a square position here, and I don't care for this.
No.
You watch yourself,
Tim.
Garrett. Tread lightly.
All right.
But carry on.
That is an intense look. You want to dial it down to an 8 for me?
I will not, Garrett. I'm a Navy man now, and this is my look.
When's your first day?
It's unclear. I've got a bunch of paperwork. They gave me the uniform.
They gave you the uniform first, really?
Yeah.
I assumed you had to earn it.
No, I think you have to earn like the patches on it, but the base uniform they give you right
I don't
up
think
front.
you should call them patches. Reminds me of a funny story. I got into a prank war with somebody at my workplace. This was almost 10 years ago now. He had escalated to a point that I felt was inappropriate. Mm-hmm. And so I got my hands on a Army Reserve application.
Oh, dear.
And filled out all of his information, took a photo of it with my 2008 phone, and sent it to him just with the caption, "Uh-oh." Standing next to a mailbox.
Yeah, the funny thing, in 2009, that guy died in Afghanistan.
Unrelated.
I don't think it was, Garrett. He died because he was in the Army.
Reserve.
Fair enough. No, I think technically his blood is all over your hands.
Technically or literally?
Did you kill him in Afghanistan?
I've never been to Afghanistan.
Well, then I mean technically.
Oh, okay. Then yes, that's accurate.
There's a children's choir in this song.
There is. In the song Jesus Crisis, when a children's choir begins singing, it just happened to be a Jewish children's choir.
Wow.
Track number 8, Blood, Honey. I now understand why in the previous 7 songs, Mr. Manson chose not to sing.
Yeah, he's not good at it.
But he wants you to know something, Tim. He's got some feelings, but he tries to hide them when he's healing.
He really is very Frey and Simple Plan-like.
I think this might be a window into Simply Hugh.
Yeah.
Hugh is emotionally available, Tim. Hugh gets his feelings hurt. Hugh needs time to recuperate.
I like emotional availability. I'm into it.
Do you feed on it?
No, I don't feed on it.
Because you completely lack it.
No, what? You are the one who lacks it, mister. I haven't cried in 10 years. I cry close to every day at work.
Yeah, you mentioned any time you are alone for 20 minutes, you begin weeping.
Yes.
Uncontrollably by your own definition.
Yes.
How long does it last?
I mean, it's not that long. It's 20, 30 minutes.
Oh my God, 30 minutes multiple times a day.
Well, only if I'm left alone for 20 minutes or more. The point is, I get dehydrated, and that, I think, is what stops it.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. You're super sick. Also, I think you might have, chronic depression.
In this song, he's got the lyrics, "I'm not being mean, I'm just being me." He's trying to be a popular girl in 11th grade, right?
Yes.
Okay.
These last 3 songs, Tim, this is where the weird really gets ratcheted up. This song reminds me of the vampire musical that Jason Segel's character has secretly written in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yes.
Do you remember this?
I do, yeah. He's got a whole puppets. It's a rock opera. It's not a musical.
Yes. Well, okay. This song reminds me of that. I want to see puppet vampires dancing around singing these songs.
That actually would be a really good application of the Manson kind of image. You remember the Beck shows where he had dancing puppets?
They were marionettes.
Or marionettes, sure. I feel like if he did that, I feel like it would take a lot of the weight out of what he's trying to do.
It is hard to protest somebody with a full-on puppet show in the middle of their concert.
Unless you are fearful of puppets, in which case it's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. Ooh, I watched a puppet movie the other night. It terrified the shit out of me.
Are there any not scary puppet movies?
Is Pinocchio scary?
A little. Doesn't he get eaten by a whale?
Yeah, but he's all right.
Yeah, I don't know. I never made it through that whale incident.
He gets swallowed by that whale, and you're like, no, thank you.
Yeah, that movie's going off.
Wow. I like to think your parents ended every single Disney movie every time something tragic was about to happen.
That would be amazing if I just thought they were all super dark because my parents had recorded just blank signal after the scary part happens, just the rest of it.
You'd let it happen. So
yeah, there's no happy endings. Garrett.
So Bambi's mother dies.
The end.
Credits.
Yeah. That delightful dinosaur gets separated from its mother, or possibly its mother dies. I don't really remember. Credits.
Which movie's that?
The Land Before Time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't remember either.
Track number 9, Heaven Upside Down. This is a really weird way to both open and close a Marilyn Manson song. He does this sort of acoustic electric guitar thing that doesn't make sense on this or any of his records. It kind of has a Toadies I Burn feel to it at first, but worse, obviously. It doesn't make sense on this album.
The whole song is absolutely baffling to me. Before I tell you what I think it's about, do you have any idea what it's about?
Based on the line, now you try to tell me you're not a ghost, you're not a ghost. Is it about the movie or just our lives? Because I often accuse people of being ghosts.
What do you mean, the movie? What movie?
The M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't want to.
Oh, The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, spoiler alert here.
What? No, everyone knows there's ghosts in The Sixth Sense. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Interesting. I don't think so. I thought you were going to ask if it's about the movie Ghost.
No, Ghost
Patrick
Dad.
Swayze.
I'm a
No,
Ghost
not Ghost
Dad
Dad.
fan.
Jesus Christ. The Bill Cosby movie?
That's right. He's a ghost.
Ugh.
He's a dad. Now he's a ghost dad.
Now he's a convicted sexual assaultist.
Is he in jail currently?
Yes.
Okay.
Famed comedian, TV star,
Prolific rapist.
prolific rapist. Prolific seems like a compliment, but when it's followed by rapist, it's not.
It's very much not. So what is this song about?
Well, I think it's about a man unconvinced as to whether or not he's dealing with an apparition.
So my life.
What?
Oh, I'm constantly accusing people of potentially being ghosts.
I'm happy to hear this only from the standpoint that you have never once accused me of ghosthood.
Oh, no, I know you're very real.
Which is interesting because sometimes I question whether or not you are in fact real.
Yeah, you once wrote me a nice email outlining the possibility that I may or may not be real. And startlingly, whenever I was done reading that, I tended to agree with you. It was all great
I made
evidence.
some really convincing arguments.
Yeah.
And folks, if you think we're all nonsense and lies, if you remind me on the Twitter or the Facebook or even the Instagram, Tim will get it to me. I will post the email in question in which I proposed that Timothy Richardson some 8 years ago was not real. The point is, you don't exist.
I exist.
I'm just a crazy guy talking to himself in two slightly different voices in the same room.
Yeah, people are catching on, though.
Why does he want me to hold his hand and spin around so much?
I don't know.
He says about 86 times, hold my hand and spin around in this song. That seems to be his go-to celebration for being in heaven, upside down. What if this song is about his love of swings and he likes to get real high on the swing set and then just look behind him?
Ooh, that's always really scary.
It's terrifying, especially if you're an adult on a child's swing set, because it turns out those swings far too close to the ground. I can't even tell you how many times I've scraped almost all the hair off the front of my forehead doing that.
I think every few months you should attempt to do something that scrapes all the hair off the front of your forehead, because that's not where hair goes.
Oh, I meant skin.
Oh.
I've scraped all the skin off the front of my forehead while swinging upside down on a child's swing set. Track 10, Threats of Romance.
Did you notice the piano beat that sort of underlies this song? It's got these kind of short semi-guitar solos over it. Fucking Spoon, man.
Oh,
Every time I heard that in the background, I kind of started singing that's the way we get by. It's not that song. I wish it was that song. That's a great song.
Spoon's an excellent call. He found the grossest way ever to say have children, and I quote, "My seed would have made new fruit, and you could have been the tree."
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that's gross.
Yeah, honestly, I just don't want to hear about anybody's seed.
Yeah, or making fruit. You don't make fruit. People don't make fruit.
We're making fruit tonight, sweetie.
No,
I wasn't talking to you.
doesn't matter. I'm not going to allow you to do that.
So there's a part of this song where he begins screaming, "I like you damaged." And he screams it many times, and he screams it very loud. And I thought he was screaming, "I like you, Devin." I'm not joking at all. I had to immediately open up Genius Lyrics and just be like, who is Devin? Audience, I challenge you. Who is Devin?
Yeah, right? Between 600 and 800 words only, who is Devin?
Yeah, if it's 801, we won't read it.
$5.99?
$5.99? Get the fuck out of here. $6.23? Great.
Yeah.
$7.84? Love it. $7.99? I'll read it.
Yeah, not pleased, but you know what? You're within your rights.
I set out the rules and you stuck to them. Who is Devin?
I think this song is about how Manson doesn't really like love songs.
I was going to say he doesn't much care for love.
That works too. A girl is a man's sickness. We all know the way it ends, no matter how many times we film it. Ugh. The audience thinks they've seen it for the first time. You know what? I don't know what this song's about, Garrett. I wrote with a lot of confidence. I think this song is about how Mr. Manson doesn't really like love songs. And then the lyrics I quoted don't in any way back that up. And I don't know why I'm still doing this.
I've had a few of those from time to time.
Yeah.
Happens to the best of us.
A big who gives a shit, though.
Can we even appreciate that he's trying something different here?
By raconteuring / spooning.
we can appreciate he's trying.
Sure, and you can say that with Heaven Upside Down as well, but I don't like it.
I really don't like Heaven Upside Down.
Yeah, I don't particularly care for this song.
Luckily, there's only 10 of them. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how this thing did. Did anybody buy this piece of shit?
It's a little bit hard to say exactly. This debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200. It sold 35,000 copies its first week, which is pretty impressive for Mr. Manson
Modern time.
in this day and age, sure. But the next week it dropped to number 84. This did make it to number 3 on the Schweizer hit parade, number 14 on the Swedish Sverige-topplisten, but it only made it to number 28 on the Dutch megachart, Scared. I know you're going to be disappointed to hear the Dutch did not really like this.
I'm actually quite pleased to learn the Dutch didn't like it. I am furious that you continue to give me statistics about the Dutch. I've asked you to stop.
We have a huge following in Deuce.
It's not called Deuce. I love that you don't know what country it is.
Dutch?
Strike 2.
All right. You know what? I'm
Just
not going to
give up.
All right.
Not many people listen there. I will say that.
Perhaps my Navy career will take me there.
It will not.
Oh.
You want to know where you're going? Africa.
Critically, this kind of got positive reviews.
I had heard that. It makes me ask the question, how bad are the 5 previous albums to this one?
I think they're pretty fucking terrible. I know the Pale Emperor, the one that just preceded this one, was really poorly reviewed.
Well, I saw it referenced as kind of a return to form.
I mean, I don't think that's the case, but...
Well, no, I don't either. He's like 48. It's over, man.
I guess we're past, the breast implants and the bodysuit, the tucked back wiener, but you're 48, man.
Get it together. Settle down.
Yeah.
Maybe work at a bank. He can sell insurance.
I would love to go into a bank and just see him back there.
I'm picturing him in like the full leather getup with the straps and the makeup and everything, but then over that is a very shabby brown suit. What did the man on the street think of it?
On Amazon, there were 218 reviews. It got a 4.5 out of 5-star average, 74% 5 stars, 3% 1 stars. Garrett, people like this album. This is from December of 2017 by Ellie. It's called Forces Me to Repeat Play. Impressive. Probably the best intro to MM also. Wow, this album is haunting. I got a bunch of new CDs, and this is the only one that has grabbed me by the hair and demanded I kill for it. Winky face. First, it was tattooed in reverse that had me grooving all over the house. Say 10 is right what I needed at this moment in history. I could go on, but all I'll add is the thought that if I wanted to introduce MM to a new listener, this would be the album. Fresh, heavy, angry, rocking, industrial, grooving, with introspective lyrics. He gets better with maturity. 5 out of 5 stars.
Wow. I love how many people, and not just for this album, across all the albums we've done, are just at home dancing their hearts out.
Yeah.
How often do you find yourself dancing? I assume when I'm not here. I know how often you dance when I am here. It's a lot.
Right. Well, I'm dancing at you.
Oh, that's clear, friend. Yeah. 1, there's no music. 2, that's not dancing. And 3, there is physical contact.
Yeah, as is involved in dancing, typically.
Not like that. Usually both parties are a participant of the dance.
Doesn't have to be.
This is dancing assault. What else you got?
This is called 12 Stars. I give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 stars. 5 out of 5 stars, because that's all Amazon will let you. One more. This is from December 2017 by Dina S. WWJD. Send him to hell and sing for Satan. This album sucks. I'd rather listen to Christian death metal instead of this face sicko. I don't know what that means. He's too old to be trying to be cool. Face it, Marilyn, you'll never be Keith Richards. 1 out of 5 stars.
Man, I was right there with him until the end. I agree. He will never be Keith Richards, but I would argue he's not trying.
No, it's unclear what he's trying to do, though.
I was looking at photos of Marilyn Manson during this week, and he's mostly got it back under control, but he had like a crazy fat phase.
Oh, yeah, it's so great. I think it might be, if you go to just his Wikipedia page, I think it's the top photo.
It makes him look like the Penguin.
It's funnier than Fat Eminem.
Oh, it's way funnier. It's funnier than Fat Kanye. He looks like, not the Penguin if he was portrayed by an actor. If the Penguin from a Batman the Animated Series walked out of my TV screen and started gothing around.
Right. Who is this for, Garrett?
Aging goths. people who just can't let it go, including Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, I think it's for completists. I disagree that this is a return to form. It's just not a
I
very
don't think
good
you're in the
album.
position to make that judgment, Tim. Not until we listen to all 5 of the previous albums.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks. The next 5 weeks have been decided. We will go in reverse order, and we will go back until we find a Marilyn Manson album that is good.
Oh, that's too many Marilyn Manson albums. We're not doing that. Podcast over.
Yay! We got Garrett to quit. I can't quit. I mean, I'm joining the Navy, so I'll probably have to take some time off.
No, you were going to write out longhand to celebrate your graduation to Navyhood. I'm going to get you your own stationery, a very nice pen, one that floats, and you are to write me every week your opinion on these albums, and I will read them. You know what? With the last 3 songs on this album, it is almost not worthy of the October Scare-a-thon.
Yeah, but you got that music video.
That's true. It gave me the most erotic nightmares I've ever had in months.
Most of my nightmares are in fact erotic, and most of my erotic times are in fact a bit nightmarish, so I get it.
I don't doubt anything you just said. Final thoughts, Tim.
Marilyn Manson, the band, should kick out Marilyn Manson, the person, and continue on without him. He's the worst part of this, and they'd be better off if they were just doing their own thing.
Well, you realize the they in that sentence are computers, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So once again, you are proposing some sort of robot uprising. You strike me as a robot sympathizer.
Garrett, I'm not a sympathizer with anyone. I am a coward. I will happily join any sort of robot overlords, or any overlords for that matter.
I love that you're so ready to bend a knee to whomever is there to conquer you, but I have to warn you, Tim, as the latest addition to our naval forces, you are going to be expected to defend this country from its enemies. I don't think that aircraft carriers have a rear coward. There's a rear admiral, sure. Somebody's probably up front too. I don't know. They're big boats. But I don't think coward is a rank in the military. Back to this album. I'm still not sure if I hate it, Tim. I'm scared you're going to ask me the question, and I know it's coming, and I don't know what my answer is going to be.
Oh, you have to decide.
I know, but I just don't feel as though I've heard enough compelling evidence to get me one way or the other.
Say 10. Say 10.
Oh,
Say 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Revelations come in 12. I'll say it again.
Okay. Final thoughts are over. Time for the question. Tim, do you hate this album?
I do. I do hate this album. What about you? Do you hate this?
Yes.
Excellent. I got you there with counting.
As you always do. I like to keep a good rhythm. You know what? Just those 2 points right there, say 10, and counting to 10 in your song as the opening to your song.
As the opening to your opening song.
Yeah, that is inexcusable. He gets jazzy. There's a bluesy guitar and piano at the end of it. Hey, if you want to make Simply Hugh, we are there to support you. Okay, Marilyn?
Yes.
But if you want to try to squeeze a Simply Hugh song onto this trash pile, we will not support that. So yeah, I hate it. Let me ask you this, Tim. We don't do this enough because this is the 40th episode. Can you believe it? 40 episodes.
I can't.
40 albums.
It feels like 60.
40 albums. Where do we put this? How much do you hate it? Because now we've got a good back catalog. I think we should begin trying to slot these in our hatred spectrum, the Harris Talbot hate spectrum. I assume you're familiar with this measurement?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So on that spectrum of hate, where does this album fit in comparison to those other albums?
This is a solid 6.5 on the Talbot hate scale.
Yeah, I think you got it spot on there, but I have a hard time placing it relative to those other albums.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have to go back and eventually give each one its own numerical grade and then rank them.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Let's try to do broad strokes here. I enjoyed this more than The Fray.
Yes, I agree.
I enjoyed this less than Limp Bizkit.
Also agree. I enjoyed this less, and you're going to disagree with me on this one, than Slipknot.
Yes, I do disagree.
And again, when I say I enjoyed this less, I don't think this is a worse album than Slipknot. The Slipknot album is pure garbage. What I'm saying is the experience of listening to this for an entire week tempered with me thinking of how much are you hating it? That always really skews my hatred scale.
Right, because the more I'm not enjoying it, the more you're enjoying it.
Yes.
Boy, you know what, Tim? You've swayed me. You have swayed me. I enjoyed the Slipknot more than this.
Excellent. Yeah, you're a Slipknot fan. You're a knothead.
Taste the crow.
The problem is it's kind of boring.
It's just unimpressive. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we can probably slot it today, but I think we've given it a general grade there where it's not even as enjoyable as Slipknot. And you all know how we felt about that.
Positively.
So you hate it. I hate it. You pretty much hated it from the get. I got there on my own with no help from you. Except for at the end there.
I assisted.
I was super close to getting there,
Right.
and then you just pushed me over the edge at the end.
Yeah, you were edging. I finished you off.
Damn it. That's not what I said. I was not edging. There's no edging on the show, Tim. Guys, thanks for listening. As always, please rate, review, subscribe. I know I say it all the time, but it makes a huge difference. And hey, maybe you don't know what to say. You don't want to shower us with effusive praise. It makes you feel weird. We feel gross. Just give us a little nod, a little wink. Just give us the 5 stars, naturally, and just write, hey, Tim Antwoord, or Tim's a sucker, or Tim's a soul sucker, or potentially, what was something maybe from last week?
Tim of the Damned.
Living Dead Tim. I saw some Timulas on Instagram and Twitter this week. Any of these things. Yeah, they let us know. I love Tim's a sucker. That's a great one. Tim's a soul sucker.
I do suck soul.
You do. Whoa. You sure do. All of that is super helpful. And get creative with it. We do someday plan on doing a couple of bonus episodes where we read the excellent mail, which brings me to my next point, and some of these reviews that we've gotten because they're very funny. Talking about mail, guys, you've stepped up your game and we appreciate it. Keep them coming. You can write to us at hatePodMail@gmail.com, or you can go to hatepod.com and click on the contact us in the upper left-hand corner. Suggestions have been awesome. Stories have been awesome. Anecdotes about these albums and how you listened to them or how you came across them or what you were doing when you heard them. They're very funny. Keep them coming. We're going to do the mailbag episodes. We just keep collecting them, and you wouldn't believe it, but this takes up so much time. It is obnoxious. But please keep writing in. We love them. We reply to every single one of them. Or you can reach out to us on facebook.com/hatepod. Instagram, it's just hatepod. Twitter, it's album hatepod. Tim, did I leave anything out?
If you're a horrible misanthrope and you're on Reddit, we are also Why I Hate This Album on Reddit. You can feel free to send us gross things on there.
Does seem to be primarily what that's for. This has been Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey.
I'm the other, Tim Richardson.
The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.